So we do a lot of fault finds, as people have probably seen on our page. We get asked to do quite a lot of those and investigations for things. And now people are starting to ask how we quote for them, because obviously they're a little bit different from your average quote. It's pretty much an unknown. You're being asked to investigate something, which could take a minute, it could take 2 days. It's really difficult to actually gauge how to approach those. So I thought I'd give a bit of an insight on how we tend to do it when we come to quote these things, to keep it as fair as possible. Because generally, if you say to someone, they ask you to come in and look at something, and you say to them, it's going to be hourly, people are always hesitant, because obviously people will always wonder, are you going to be wasting time? You're going to be making stuff up, and people don't want to be sitting there wondering how long you're going to be there. It sort of creates a bit of panic, and sometimes they'll move on straight away, even if they just ask from the quoting process. So normally what we tend to do is we will give them an hourly rate. We have a first hour, like a call out hour, and then a second hour from that point onwards. So what we'll normally do is we will give people the hourly rate and say, okay, we'll start off hourly, but we'll cap it at basically 2 hours to start with, so they know pretty much exactly what they're paying still up to that point. Normally in that time, most people who have done fault finding, 90% of the time, by the first hour, certainly the second hour, you will generally know what you're dealing with. You'll either have solved it within the first hour and be done and out, or you will certainly know by that point how complex it's going to be. If you're getting to the point of there where you know cables need replacing, things need rewiring, fuse boards need changing, whatever it might be, it's going to be a more complex job, and you're certainly not going to be doing it hourly, or people are certainly aren't going to be accepting that it's going to be done hourly. So we will do the 2 hours, and at that point we will either have fixed it, or we will then be telling them that it'll be an additional quote. So they know they're looking at the 2 hour hourly rate, and then if it's not been solved at that point, we'll have already had a discussion with them, knowing that it's, things need rewiring. We will then go away, hopefully having sort of at least done a temporary fix at that point. We will go away, re-quote them for the actual job, and then book in at a time to fix that. So they then also know what the second trip is going to be as well. That way, keeps it fair. We've always found it helps. It makes it fair. People know what they're looking at. It doesn't have any hidden charges, and I think that's, people really sort of appreciate that as well, rather than just saying, look, it's going to be an hour or per hour, and you're there for 2 days, and people, it's just, people won't have it, I don't think, generally. But I feel like it's always been better to just be upfront and set a bit of a plan, because, like I said, normally you're fairly confident about fixing things like that. So that's how we tend to do it. The only other way is sometimes with those really difficult fault finds that are sporadic. I mean, everyone knows anything with RCDs, things like that aren't doing it all the time, and you're having to, well, we've had it recently as well, where we fixed a fault, it was fine, it was working the whole time and worked for about 48 hours afterwards, and then randomly went, a couple of days later. So with things like that, we will then, if we've been doing it on the hours and we've been there the first hour and charged the first hour, if we have to go back and it's for some reason not completely rectified, we will pick up from that second hour charge as well. We won't just go back in first hour again, because I think that just creates a bit of a bad rep, as in you've gone in to check it, you may not have fixed it. People may think, you've just gone and done that to come back and get a second hour charge out of them again as well. So basically the approach is always as usual, hopefully with us, is the honest approach, as in you sort of up front, we're pretty transparent about the costs and how we approach things like that, but I feel like it helps and makes things more comfortable for the customer as well, and they appreciate that, and we tend to get a lot of acceptances with regards to fault finding in that way. And thankfully we've solved most of the fault finds within the first 2 hours anyway, which is nice, but we have had instances where it's not been the case, and we've had to go back and rewire whole circuits and things like that, but at least people know what they're looking at that point. So yeah, in terms of fault finding, that's how we do it. If that's helpful to anyone, then great, but maybe let us know how you might do it as well.